everybody to linuxacademy.com. My name is Terry. In today's course, we continue our preparation for the Linux Foundation Certified System Administrator. In this video, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about backups. So there are a large variety of ways, depending on what you want to accomplish, in doing backups at the command line. So we're going to take a look at a couple. We'll spend a little more time on one or two that are typically used for more than single system or single file or single directory backups. But we're going to talk about a couple of different ways. So the easiest way to make a backup is to simply make a copy of the data that exists in a location to another location. So we have a data directory here that we've previously created that has a bunch of files and directories in it. It's actually based on the Etsy directory on our system. So this data directory contains stuff that we want to back up. We're going to make some changes to it, and we want to keep a backup copy of it. So the easiest way for doing a quick backup of something that I don't care about permissions or links or anything else, or data compression, I've got the appropriate amount of disk space available for it, is to make another directory called something. In this case, we'll call it data backup. Then we'll change into the data backup directory, and we're going to do a copy. Now we need to make sure that we do a recursive copy because we want everything that's in the directory. So a CP will only copy files that exist in the initial path that we pass it. So if we just did a copy on data star, all it would do would be to copy any files that exist in the data directory to here, and we want more than that. What we want to do is we want to recursively copy and overwrite anything that might exist here with a matching file name. So we're going to do a cp-rf ... which means drop down a directory, start with the data directory, copy everything to right here. So this command right here, cp-rf, means recursively copy everything from the data directory, one directory level below mine, to the current directory, which is the data backup directory. Once I do that, then everything that I've got here is a copy of what exists in the data directory. Now that's great for a small directory with a smaller number of files. It can take a good amount of time if you happen to be copying a very large file system. Not to mention that if you want to preserve ownership and all of the appropriate permissions and file system attributes, the cp command is not what's going to be appropriate for it. So more than likely what you're going to find is you're going to find that you're going to use the tar command. And the tar command stands for a tape archive. So a tape archive is just an application that was written back when backups were done to tape that has the ability to compile files and directories maintaining a bunch of different attributes into a single tar file or a tar compressed file. And there's a couple of different compression formats that you'll hear about, whether it's bzip2 or gzip, which are the two most common. And we'll show you how that affects their file system extension. So what we want to do is we want to copy what's in the data directory to a single file. And the reason that we may want to do that is because we may want to move it somewhere else, and it'll make it a lot easier if we've got it all kind of bundled up into a single file. So we want to run the tar command. And then in the tar command, we want to compress, verify, and verbose the files. We want to create a file system called let's call it data_backup.tar. And then we need to tell it what it is that it's doing, the data directory. Now what we end up with is we end up with data_backup.tar. It looks like it's about 2.5 megabytes in size, and it should contain everything that's in the data directory. How can we verify that? Well, we can view the files without uncompressing them from that directory or that file into a directory. Let's go ahead and clear it. So if we do an ls-al on the data directory, we can just take a look at, we've got our test.txt time zone file in it, etc., etc. So we've got an idea of what it looks like. So if we want to take a look at what we've actually tarred up into this file, we could do a tar tvf, which tells me I just want to view what happens to be in this data archive. And then the data backup.tar. And we'll go ahead and pipe that to more. And this tells me these are all the files and directories, along with the file system attributes and ownership, that has been copied into this file. Now, if I want to know a particular file, hey, did I grab the test.txt file when the tar file was run? So I can do a tar tvf and then the data backup.tar, and I can grep for test. And I can see that inside that data directory, I indeed have a test.txt file. So I know that I've been able to back up that particular file. Once I have a tar file that's been backed up, I can compress it by running a gzip application. And the gzip application is simply looking for a file that it can compress into a file name. And I don't have to give it a file name, although I can. But in this case, I do a gzip, and I want to do a data backup.tar. And now when I look at that data backup.tar, it's been renamed to data underscore backup.tar.gz, and it has 525, 689. That's the size. So it went from 2.5 megabytes to about 0.5 megabyte in size. So could I have done that from the get-go? So let's do an rm on the data backup.tar.gz. And now what I want to do is I want to do a tar cvzf, and it's the same compression, verify verbose, zip, and files, and I want to name it data backup gzip dot tar dot gz, and I want to do that to the data directory. Now when I look at that directory, then I should see about 0.5 meg file, which I do, which is called data backup gzip.tar.gz. So you can do it all in one fell swoop. Now once I've got that system backed up, or that file directory backed up, I can restore it with the same exact command, only doing an extract. So let's make another directory called data temp. We don't want to step on any directories or overwrite anything. And what I can do now is I can do a tar, and then I can do a zxvf, which means I am unzipping and extracting verbose files, / data backup gzip.tar.gz. And this will take the contents of that compressed tar archive or tape archive and expand it to this location. And now I have the data directory that contains all of the files that I backed up before. So the tar and the gzip commands, when combined together, are commands that you're generally going to use for file system backups. Now, if we take a look at the man page for the tar command, there's a whole bunch of other information about how to concatenate files, how to update information within it, how to delete files from the archive, and I recommend you take a few minutes and you look at the tar archive man page and look at things that you may want to do. The other item that we're going to take a look at that applies for full file system backups is we're going to look at exclude. So if we do a man on tar, and well, let's look at exclude. Exclude means that we can exclude files given as a pattern, and then we can also exclude caches, we can exclude tags, etc. But in this case, let's exclude a particular file. So if we wanted to back up our directory, so we want to do a cvzf, which is a compressed verbose zipped file archive called data without test.tar.gz. And what we want to do is we want to tell it to exclude the test.txt file. And we can do that at the end by saying, I want you to -- exclude equal the file name that I don't want to include, which would be test.txt. And I want this done on the data directory. So we're going to create a compressed and zipped tar file excluding test.txt on the data directory. And we're going to call it data without test.tar.gz. So we have a compressed archive called data without test.tar.gz, and we have the data backup gzip.tar.gz. So the difference of those would be, for example, let's do a tar tvzf and data backup gzip and grep for test.txt, which we see it is included there. And in here, what we can do is we're going to say data without test.txt and see if it's included, which it's not. So we were able to exclude the file test.txt based on that pattern. You could have also done that exclusion based on a directory or based on a file type as well. So this is how you'll generally see backups done of large-scale file systems, the tar command. We'll also talk a little bit later about how you might use rsync, but rsync is for more than just backing up file systems. It also is used for synchronizing file systems. Tar you will generally use when you want to back up directories, file systems, etc., and you can preserve file system permissions by adding during the compression phase the P directive, which will tell you to preserve ownership and file system permissions. So, for example, if you were backing up the etc directory from one place and you actually wanted to restore it exactly as is to another, as another user, if it had been backed up with the P directive, that would preserve the file system ownership and permissions in the new location. So for backing up file systems, that's all there is to it. My name is Terry for Linux Academy.